I'm sure I'm sure that because of the technical difficulties we faced in the previous lecture on Sunday, we are now comfortable on the same page and we are now starting a new topic that is with reference to the training process as how it is undertaken by the trainers in the learning environment. Should we start?
Sure, sir.
Yes, sir, please start.
Okay, right. Friends, today we'll be talking about the central fulcrum of the training event that mainly focuses upon how the training activities should be undertaken, and it is a long journey. But before that, I should give the background of the things which we have to understand. See, the major myths about the training activity in the society is that even if the training is imparted for a different purpose, to bring a change in the behavior, to bring change in the attitude, to bring change in the knowledge component of the learner, still we find the narrative is being generated that the training is not practical, or we can simply understand that the training has been good, but let my senior or the junior should attend this particular program, meaning thereby that there had been myths about the training activity. Simultaneously, it is equally important that the training is so important that just to bring a change in the learners, we have to find that the component of imparting learning is only possible through the training activity. Even if you talk about the information to be imparted or to be transferred, or the knowledge to be imparted, the skills to be imparted, or the attitude to be changed, we need to take the shelter of training activity. And mind you, again, there is a difference between two activities, teaching and the training. Since persons like me come from the academic background, who have been engaged in the teaching profession, but the teaching cannot be effective if the training input is not involved in the delivery process. Meaning thereby, teaching is the monologous activity, where the training activity, we can find it is the learner centric. The basic aim of training is to see to what extent the learner will be in position to gain knowledge, to gather information, to bring change in the attitude, to make the habit formation, and so on and so forth. So, teaching is relatively a teacher centric, whereas the training is the learner centric. Simultaneously, we can understand that either the organizations may face some problems. Because of that problem, they may come to the trainers or to the agency of the trainers to go for the training activity. Because whenever there is a technical problem in terms of performance, in terms of the productivity, in terms of some managerial problems, for instance, if there is high degree of absenteeism, simultaneously we do not understand, or there may be a problem of the attrition, that we hire the people and they don't stay in the corporate and they leave before they start the functioning. So these are the issues. And the cost of absenteeism. See, international standard wise, we can find that it is 8% absenteeism rate can be tolerated. It is tolerable, but it is not going to affect the performance. But if you find that it is going to be higher in the magnitude, especially when the job of some of the industries, say for example, steel industry, monotonous job, environmentally difficult task, so there can be high degree of absenteeism on the workplace. We can also understand that because of the summer season, the magnitude of the heat will naturally be going up, so there will be high degree of absenteeism. So we can find that is the problem. So how to reduce that problem? If these are the problems, we have to understand that we have to switch over to the training activity. So that is the background, and now I will be sharing the important aspect of the training process, which we have already shared in the beginning, so we can understand. I'll be sharing certain PPTs, and I can understand that will be helping us for better understanding. So again, I given my personal details to you. My email address and my mobile contact is there. So if need be, we can be connected to each other. Basically, we find that the professional approach for the training activity has gone up in the recent years because of the high social respect, good remuneration, and having the experience, first-hand experience, and the ambition to develop some people's career. We joined the career as the professional trainer. But simultaneously, there are certain issues, certain challenges. So before we proceed further, we have to understand the challenges. The fast changing environment, new changes in the technology, new changes in the training pedagogy, the HRD dynamics have together been changed. When some 50 years back, most of us started our career, it was a personnel management, meaning hiring and firing. These two were the major important functions of the personnel management, but now it is no more there. It is the retention to enhance the motivation level, to provide the purpose leadership. These have become the magnitudes of the HRD dynamics. Simultaneously, we also focus upon improving the productivity or the productivity of the concerned person. Because of the involvement of the NGOs and the non-government organizations, we find that the magnitude of the training activities has gone up. We also find that training basically is the systematic development of the knowledge, skill, attitude, behavior pattern, which is essentially required by an individual to perform adequately a given task or the job. See, unless we continuously upgrade our activities, it is difficult to enhance their performance. There are basically 5 components of the training process that starts from the identification of the training needs. We do not know what for the training activity has been undertaken. So we have to see that what type of needs are there. Definitely there will be decline in the performance, decline in the productivity. That may be the aspect of the organization as because of the decreased performance, we have to train the people. So, or maybe a problem for which we have to identify the training needs of the group of people. Simultaneously, the training process starts with the learning objectives. See, training is imparted to focus upon the basic objectives. And the learning objectives mainly mean for the individual or the group or the entire organization. And when we talk about the entire organization, there will be some sections for which the training can be imparted. Later on, when we talk about the third aspect of the training process, find it is the training design, which is very, very important, which consists of the participants, the type of participants who are to be trained, the contents being developed, the training budget, training methods, and the training media or the vehicle through which the training is to be imparted, and the learning styles of the learners. These are important aspects. In context of these elements, we have to design the training program. When we find the subsequent element, that is the training delivery, after identifying the learning objectives and designing the training program, we have to focus upon how the delivery is to be ensured, for which we have to talk about the communication of training. We have to focus upon the avenue, the venue for the training and the training schedule, because the learners who are coming from the organizations have got their own schedule. They have to perform in the organization. So with reference to their training schedule, we have to make the delivery possible. And finally, it is the measurement of the effectiveness, because it involves the cost. It involves the financial resources, the money, time, energy of the trainer. A huge cost is involved in the training activity. So measurement of this training activity becomes essential. When we talk about the training program, question arises: why should we go for making a training program? Why should we discuss all these things here? See, the origin of the training program clusters around the training needs. It talks about the professional development of the learners. It talks about the personal growth of the learners. Then we have to talk about the demand for the enhancing competencies. When you talk about competencies, it is different from the knowledge. Knowledge is a factual phenomenon. Certain facts are there which are to be transferred to the learners, but we have to talk about the skills and the competency. I can cite one example. The India is the country whose average age is 29 years. When you compare to Japan, America, or some European countries, we find that they need high degree of competent people. We being the youngest country of the world, we can find that we need competent people. But question is that what to talk of general people? The engineers, we can find that they are not employable. The simple reason, there are certain skills, competencies which they are missing. And that is the reason that every engineering college or every university first try to make them employable, either through the soft skills or through the hardware skills, which is need of the hour. We can also find that new ventures, when created, they find a different type of challenges. It is not only the layout problem, it is not only the project problem, but when we start the new ventures, then new challenges will be there. Say, for example, taxation system will be there, application of IT will be there, and new technological upgradation will be there in the new ventures. So these are the challenges we have to discuss with reference to these challenges. Then technological changes have been taking place. What we were understanding about the ICT, information communication technology, in the era of 2022-23, we find artificial intelligence come forward. So why to go for learning all these things through the books or through the literature? Even artificial intelligence is there. When I started my career, for example, I can narrate one example. We used to prepare the notes, but since artificial intelligence is there, there is no need or least focus on learning from the books and the text. Directly we can go approach artificial intelligence and we can simply ask what type of topics and what it is to be delivered and how it is to be delivered. So that we find a lot of changes has been taking place. Again, I tell you why there is need for the training. It can either be demanded or can be asked by the organizations if they understand. And if the organizations do not come forward, then the training agency comprising of the training professionals, they can go further and request the organizations that because of some immune problems of the organizations, we can impart the training activity. So that way we find that these two agencies will be there, and based on the opinions of these two types of stakeholders, we can club together and we can form the training activities. That you find when talk about the organizations, find the organization may ask for the customized training for specific needs. As I narrated, the organizations may face the problem of attrition or this absenteeism. So because of this high magnitude of the problem, the organizations can ask for training the people so that the absenteeism can be reduced. Then the organization, when they come forward, they bear the total cost. They have got their own planning, they have got their own learning objectives and their designs. Only thing is that they have to impart the training activity to the learners. Then the organization can also come forward for inducting the new recruits, to give the background of the organization and to talk about the new initiative which is to be undertaken by the recruits. Then training at on premises agency or the outbound, it depends. Say, for example, there are many organizations who want to acclimatize the trainees in their own campus. Then either they can ask to go for their own campus, or they can ask the agency or the trainer's place where the people can be trained, or there can be a separate independent place or the venue so that outbound training can be imparted. At the time of changes in process, systems, methods, and procedures, the training activity may be inevitable, and that may be found suitable by the organizations. After that, we can also think of the training agencies or the group of professionals as the trainers. They can also propose as the training needs of the specific target group for common functions like the training activity for the policymakers, for the field workers. I can cite one example like national management institutes or the national organizations like ISTD or HRD network or NIPM. They can go forward and ask the corporates to suggest them to undertake the training activity in these organizations, and that can be undertaken. Then there can be a particular area of organization functioning, like n number of organizations are involved into the sales, retailing, projects, team activities, international communications. So with reference to their activities, a particular activity as the domain area of the training can be used by the agency. I can tell you, say Reliance was the company which was engaged in imparting training for sales and the retailing activity. So that way, or some hotel management institute can offer to impart the housekeeping training activities for the learners. We can also find that there can be perceived needs identification for individuals, groups, or the organizations with reference to the cluster of organizations. For instance, if SOCHM or say CIIA come forward that we are facing this problem, say the major concern of CIIA in the recent years that the higher volume of CSR funds are not being properly used. They do not know how to use it. So they can ask some CSR NGOs or the trainers of the CSR to arrange the activity for a cluster of organizations who can be asked to know the magnitude, the volume, the scope of the CSR activities. And on the basis of the feedback from the industry or from the organizations or from the organizations of some industries, we can go for using this activity. I think we can have a pause right now here, and if there is any query, we can simply Chandru Advani wanted to ask something. Please ask, Mr. Chandru.
Yes, good afternoon, sir.
Good
Just wanted to confirm, what does CSR stand for?
CSR basic, just as cite the example, corporate social responsibility from 2013 onwards, it is compulsory for the companies to spend 2% of the net profit on the social development of the society, meaning thereby that 2% of the profit has to be spent. Then question is that how it can be spent, which are the agencies, what are the areas. So for that purpose, a training activity can be arranged for the specific corporates who want clarification for this particular activity. Yes, Mr. Jagannathan.
Sir, like you mentioned, it is a provision in the Companies Act 2013 that some percent, 2% of this net profit should be spent on social responsibility by the corporates. But as a trainer, or maybe as a very senior person in the industry, what do you think this is the compulsion? Yeah, na, matlab,
I can understand.
Yeah.
Kulkarni Sahab, when suppose it is the new phenomenon, we find that people are not, and to the tune of say 23,000 crores of rupees are kept for CSR fund in the corporate affairs ministry, right? And that money, partly it is used and partly it is not used. And if it is used, many people ask that we have gone for distributing to the slum area. Now the government says we want to have the assessment of the impact. So what will be the scope of the activities? What will be the evaluation of the impact of the CSR fund being used for the social development? So let there be independent agency for that matter. So these are the nitty-gritties of the CSR fund being utilized. I simply gave the example of CSR activity. there can be n number of activities which the organization are not aware of. So that way it can be used. So that is the basic purpose of citing that example. Okay.
No, what I mean to say is it's a compulsory charity, isn't it? It is not initiative.
Absolutely,
Charity.
absolutely. At earlier, sir, Kulkarni Saab, it was voluntarily to be spent. We have to, we could found that Birlas and Bangars used to
Tata.
spend money for opening pyos and dharamsalas and some
Right.
marriages of the poor girls in the villages in their at the naughty
Yes.
places. But no, they simply ask to spend the money. That voluntarily is your
Yes.
own choice. But 2% of the net profit, if earning more than 5 crores, and if the volume is more than 500 crores of the company, then they will have to spend 2% of the net profit compulsorily with reference to the assessment of the impact. And that impact is to be evaluated as to what extent the lifestyle has changed, to understand as the how the poverty has been elevated, and how the living standard has been enhanced, and what had been the malnutritional stage of the society as a whole. So that way, there are certain parameters which have been designed by the corporate affairs ministry. So that way, I cite the example that when this is new area, then there can be demand of the corporates to go for undertaking such type of training. Say, for example,
Sir, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And connected to this only, I'm more interested in knowing as to trainer by compulsion and trainer by choice, how they make difference while we are talking about the training process. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Valid question. And especially we should take care of this connotation. We should have the understanding that I understand because I was actively involved in the CSR activity of Bosch India Foundation. And they people have been spending 92% of their net profit on the social developmental activities. So it is not question of 2%. 92% was being spent. But the company affairs ministry said that, sir, you spend, give us the impact. And suppose for that purpose only, they started their own instruments, their own system of evaluation. So compulsorily, the problem is that how to evaluate. So let the trainers, professional trainers, come forward, because earlier it was voluntarily and now it is compulsory to show the impact. So say, for example, a CSR box is the group of trainers in the CSR activity. So they will come forward and resolve their issues. So that will be helping them. Okay. So this is the example I wanted to share. So now we can further proceed, and if there are certain queries, we can definitely come forward for further clarifications. See, when we discuss about as who demands what, we can understand the scope of the training is definitely the same. When there is bottlenecks being faced by the organizations, then let the organizations identify the functioning bottlenecks. As I narrated, because of high degree of attrition, high degree of absenteeism, the moral level is very less, or there is no involvement of the people at the workplace, or so there may be n number of problems. So this is the area where the training activity is to be undertaken by the organization. Then solutions are for the existing problems. See, people do not come with the problems. They want solutions. And they, as if we go to the doctor will be solving the problem of the health issues. So they come to the agency, trainers agency, or the trainers to solve their problem. And I can cite the example of persons like Professor T.V. Rao, Professor Uday Parikh. When they were working in IIM Ahmedabad, see, the corporates used to come there. They used to give the money that these are the emerging areas in the particular domain. So please go for this study. I can cite one more example. It was generally understood that compared to European component, Indian counterpart is poor in the entrepreneurial activity because of some background reasons. And surprisingly, when the Kakinada experiment took place in Andhra Pradesh, in the coastal area, they surprisingly found the people with a high need for achievement seem to be entrepreneurs, and they lead a better life and they become the entrepreneurs. So that was the beginning of the Magellan's achievement theory of motivation that propounded the theory of entrepreneurship globally. So the theory which was germinated in Europe, that only Europeans are the entrepreneurs, that's failed them in understanding that because of this we can find that the entrepreneurs are everywhere in the society. Then there will be some problems with reference to the decision making or the problem solving skills. We generally have been taking, and most of you who have been engaged in the training activity find. So for example, we have got the resource myopia as the problem in creative decision making or creative problem solving. Say, I can cite the example. When I talk about as what are the uses of bricks, then there is a connotation in the mind of the people that yes, brick means construction, brick means mortar system, and we will have to go for making the houses. But we don't understand that we have been solving this problem when we go for picnic. The same bricks can be used as the stove. When suppose there is a wild animal, we can use the same brick as the weapon. So that we find that if there is compulsorily there is a mind-boggling exercise undertaken by the learners, we can go for n number of alternatives. These are the creative ways of thinking. So for that purpose, the training activities may be there to develop the problem solving skills of the people. Then we can also think that that competency which is needed there, the skills, the competencies. When we talk about the skills are for deploying the energy level with reference to the external stimuli in the learner, and competency means to develop inherent or intrinsic skill set in the mind of the learner. So that will be helping a person to deliver the things. Meaning thereby that the competency skills both go hand in hand. The skill set can be there, it's the hands-on experience that is physically to be developed. The competency is to be inherited, it is the intrinsic sort of thing which is to be there. Then organizational communication is also one of the important areas where the training activities to be undertaken. We can also talk about the positive attitude building. Major problem of the developing and the developed nations is the positive attitude only. Why the developed nations are developed and why the poor nations are the poor? The simple reason is not of the resources. Had there been this composition, we could say that Japan could have never been the developed nation. If we find that because of the natural resources, India is the superpower in terms of natural resources. The human element, the human resources of high degree, because the IT industry of the world is being governed by the Indian nationals. So that we find that it is not the competence level, it is not the resources or the natural resources, it is the positive mindset only. The developed nations are developed because they have got the positive attitude, and the positive attitude means that there should be law abiding character, there should be positive thinking, there should be honesty, there should be truthfulness. So if these are the characteristics or attitudes to be developed, then we can find. So these are the areas where we have to undertake the training activities. When you talk about the training phases, it undertakes at 3 levels. Either it can be pre-training, during the training, or the post-training. Then we can find that it has got different connotations as well. When we talk pre-training phase, before we start the training activity, we can find the performance problem to be identified well in advance, as why that training is to be undertaken, perhaps because of the poor performance, as how the performance is going down, what could be the reasons. Then for that purpose, we have to analyze the performance problem, We have to identify the training needs as what are the domain areas where the training is expected to be delivered, to be removed. The problems are to be removed, and we have to impart the training for the needs of the organization. Then we have to identify the selection of the target group. See, ideally 15 to 25% are there in the group for the training. And with reference to their training, the methodology or the methods will be the same. But question is that what type of people will be there? If in the group like this, our diploma students group has got even 25 years aged people are there, whereas the 70 plus people are also involved in this activity. So if we can find, and if that the two types of people are there, some are the freshers, some are the experienced people, it becomes difficult for the trainer to handle. So we have to identify the target group as which will be the compatible group which can be imparted the training. Then determination of the performance objectives. When we talk about the reason that when the performance is going down, we will have to start the training activity. Question is that what is the parameters of the performance? If you find the performance in terms of the profitability is going down, we have to identify if the reasons are because of the absenteeism or the attrition rate or any other technological reason, or there is a problem with reference to the behavior of the manager. So if we identify those areas, then only we can go for training activity in view of that. Say, because of the technological obsolescence, the productivity is going down, and the organizations feel that people are going for high degree of absenteeism. So there will be a mismatch. We are imparting training for removal of the absenteeism, whereas there should be removal of the technological obsolescence in the organization setting. So that way, we find that the performance objectives are also to be understood by the concerned agency or the corporates. Determining of the evaluation criteria. See, the training activity winds up at the level of the evaluation. So we have to evaluate as what is the evaluation criteria. Say, for instance, if you find the evaluation criteria with reference to the language of the speaker, if you find the ecosystem, the facilitation, the furniture, the quality of the furniture, quality of the food for the training program, but we miss the important component of the training, that how far the inputs could bring the learner to be more effective. So that you find our aim was to impart learning for improving the performance, and we are evaluating the training activity on the basis of the ecosystem or the atmosphere of the venue. So the performance will be evaluated on the basis of that parameter only, and that will be giving a wrong judgment. So it will be difficult for adjusting the things. So we have to set the criteria of the evaluation as well. Preparing training specifications. See, some do's and don'ts are there with reference to a particular activity. I can cite an example that at the shop floor level, when there is a high degree of stress because of the environmental factors, or when the technology is new, and because of this technological unfriendliness, that there is high degree of stress, it becomes difficult as why the people are under the stress. So we have to understand the reasons for that, and according to that only we will have to impart the training on the specified specifications. Say, for instance, if the technology has been new and people are under stress, they are threatened to leave the job. So ensure that people will not be threatened, and if the technical aspect of the technology is there, we will send the people concerned for the training activity. So simultaneously, we have to talk about the development of the training material. The contents are there which are there. So we have to develop the training material well in advance. That consists of the theoretical framework, the theories, the practical hands-out, the instruments being used, and many activities will be there, which some work is also to be assigned to the learners. at their home, the learners will have to prepare that material. And we have to draw up the plans for the implementation and how it is to be implemented in the due course of time. We can also find the second phase as the in training or during the course of the training activity. We have to see how the training resources are to be arranged. Training resources consist of the venue, the classroom, the sitting arrangement, the involvement of the trainer. See, bringing a person for training from IIM Ahmedabad is not going to suffice the purpose for the soft load level workers. If that is designed for the policy makers, then yes, it can be understood that the IIM professors will be the right people. But if we have to impart the soft load level training, then we have to ensure that the ITI professional, ITI trainer will be the right kind of person. So we have to understand what type of trainers will be needed. Assessment of the entry behavior. As I narrated in the beginning, that people join the organizations having their own background. There will be a problem for undertaking this training activity. The people, the participants who come with reference to a variety of experiences, they are again the problem creators. It is difficult to manage the training activity because they feel the trainer is of say 25, 30 years of age and they are experienced people. What do they know? They do not know the reality. So the myth has been created that though the training is good, but it is not practical. People have been narrating that the training is good, but my senior must have joined. When you say that this particular training is good, it means that they are either sabotaging the training activity or they are creating mockery of the training activity because of the different entry behavior. So how to tackle such type of behavior of the participants will be a different lesson where we will be talking about separately. Then presentation of the structured learning experiences. It means whatever the things are to be presented should be brought under the structured manner. And how the structured manner is there, say from, we should impart the training from known to the unknown. Chandrayaan ek din mein nahi bana tha. Chandrayaan ke liye we found that we were miserably failing in our attempts. Or 30-40 years efforts have been there, but we could not get it there. So there is again a particular type of training structure which is to be there. Formative and summative assessment, meaning thereby that assessment takes place at the two levels. Number one, at the trainer's level, as how the training activity is being undertaken by the learner. So that the trainer will be evaluating, the trainer will be understanding as how the training has been formed, how the training has been has been formatted in the learner. But when we talk about the summative assessment, the learner will have to understand at how could the learner assimilate the learning value of the particular event. So that we find two types of assessments are needed. It should be evaluated by the trainer as how the learner could understand, but that is not sufficient. We have to understand from the learner's perspective as how the learner could bring a substantial change in the learning aspect. So that is important. Then we will have to talk about the internal validation, meaning thereby that the people concerned within the organizations, like the trainer and the learner, should validate as what had been the learning. And there can be external validation, like organizations or the independent auditors, independent people, the managers, so that they can understand the learning part which has been there. We can also think about the performance aids. See, performance aids play a vital role for imparting training. I can cite one example. If we are imparting training for learning the computers, then simply theoretical framework will not suffice. But if we hand over the laptop or the or the system, computer system to the learner and ask them to use the same computer system, that performance aids will be adding value for imparting learning for the learners. Then preparation and presentation of action plans. I can give an example that after the training, the learners are asked to go for making their own presentations. They are asked to do some homework. They are asked, say for example, if there is problem of interpersonal relationship or there is a chaotic situation of the team, so they will be asking to form a team. And the team of what? The team of the people who are unknown to the concerned learners. So in the group of say 25 persons, there will be formation of the teams of 5 persons each who have never been friendly to each other. So unknown persons will be joining hands to share the experiences, and they ask to share the things which was never ever shared with anybody. So that opening up session will be there, and this breaking the inertia, and we could understand that people go for such type of action plans and they learn out of that exercise. Agreement on transfer of learning strategy. Let the trainer and the learner develop the strategy how the learning strategy can take place. What efforts should be made to develop the learning effectiveness. Say for example, if say in a monotonous lecture situation, we can find as the things are to be delivered in the classroom, it is of less importance. Like for example, I can cite this own example. Here the basic purpose, because majority of you people are the established trainers or they have been engaged in the HR activity for imparting training. There can be some freshers also. So simply lecture method will be sufficing on part of the training agency like ISTD, that the agreement is to deliver the notes, deliver the lectures, and let the assessment take place at the end of the session. But in the real life situation, when the training activity is undertaken at the, say for example, at the real work situation, let there be agreement that it is not only the lecture method, there should be role play method, there can be say in basket exercises, there can be say case studies being taught. So that way n number of methods can be there. So for that purpose, let there be agreement as how it can be used. I'll be pausing for the time being. If there is any query up to this slide, we can further go for explanation. Please. Is it okay? So let me continue with the subsequent pages. The last phase of the training is the post-training phase. That is at the end of the training, what should we do? We have to understand as to what extent we could impart the training activity. So we have to see the preparation for the transfer of learning. The learning is the important aspect. We have to understand the seeking organizational management support for continued practice. See, training should not mean the piecemeal. Once we have imparted the training, and see the basic tragedy with the training activity is this only, that there happen to be lip sympathy by the organization. They feel that if we send our people for the training, who will do our job? So, and again, the cost is involved. So that does not make a sense. So let it be continued activity. If say after interval of say 3 months, the people are sent back for the refresher, it is again to be seen as to what extent there had been a change in the behavior of the people. Then we have to understand the felicitation of the individual or the group activities or projects invised in the action plan. As I cite the example, as when the team building exercise is to take place, what type of group activities are to be undertaken. Then, as I narrated earlier, that internal validation of the training activities to be undertaken by the internal stakeholders of the the trainers as well as the learners. But we have to ensure at what external people visualize of the training activity. Then at the end, we have to see the evaluation of the training. What had been the cost benefit analysis, the cost being incurred, and to what extent we could evaluate, and there should be a proper criteria of the evaluation. And finally, there should be feedback to the trainees, training system, and the organization who is responsible for arranging this training activity. We can also find that if it is supported by the organizations or the trainers, then it can be repeat training activity. The most important aspect in the designing of the program is the profiling of the participants. We have to understand, we have to send the people for the training. The organization should ensure to send the people who are serious about the learning activity. So we have to see readiness of the people, maturity level of the people, and the learning style. Same type of learning style could be there. Suppose the people are new literate, then let the people be grouped for the new literate people only. And if you find that if they are mixed with the highly qualified people, then the learning style will be defective one. There are certain questions with reference to the assessment. How to assess the individuals, their previous learning experience. So before sending a person for the training activity, we have to understand what type of individuals are there, what are their previous experience, differences in age, experiences, and ability to learn, learners number. Ideally, I said 15 to 25 people are there for a small group for undertaking the training activity. And if the tool is also being used for imparting the training with reference to the active participation, then this will be the size. If there is a lecture method, and for that purpose, a batch of 50 to 60 persons can be there, because there will be one-way communication imparting the learning value for them. Then acceptance or the conflict. Let the trainer and the learner should accept each other. Otherwise, there will be conflict because of the perceptual errors in the setting or evaluating the concerned people. Provision of remedial training. Even if we have imparted the training, let there be some sort of extra remedies, extra remedials. If there is a demand, we can go for it. Matching learning event to learning style. So everybody has got a different learning style. So we have to understand how to match the learning activity for the learning style of the concerned learner. Now coming to the learning unit, we find that the basic objective of the learning unit means it is the composition or the composite activity of the learning. So in totality, the learning endeavor, learning event will be known as the learning activity. The objective is which states what a learner will be able to do at the end of the training activity. The entry behavior means it takes account of the learner's knowledge, skills, attitudes, experience, and the learning style, etc. We have to talk about the learning event. It creates a suitable opportunity for the learner to achieve the objective, meaning thereby, let there be a particular objective for the learners, and let there be a particular phenomenon known as the event, known as the activity, known as the training, known as the learning. So we have to create the event in such a manner so that the learning can be imparted. And at the end, we have to go for assessment, which determines whether the objective has been achieved for which it has been designed. If you talk about a learning event to be created, we have to set the objective. Objective for what? We have to set the objective of the entire training program. We have to set the objective with reference to a particular module or the unit or the topic to be covered. Then select the content, the contents or the knowledge part or the theories which are to be delivered, the sequence, which topic should be covered first and which should be the subsequent topics are to be decided well in advance. Select method. A lot of methods are there, like from lecture method to the case study method to the storytelling method to the laboratory, to the level of say in basket exercise sort of thing. So n number of methods are there. We have to make the selections out of that. Then select media. When you talk about media, we have to see the vehicle through which the delivery is to be made. There are some hardwares and the softwares, like computer system will be there, the hardware which will be need of the hour. There are certain softwares which are used for imparting that the activity. So for example, for this training activity, we find that Zoom is the platform which has been used as the software. So that way, that is the vehicle which is there. But if it is the traditional system of imparting the learning, then definitely the classroom setting will be there with the specified objectives you can find here. Time slot is equally important. Select the trainer. As I said so frequently, that for corporate training, for the policymakers, IM professor may be suitable. But for imparting the shop floor worker, we have to see that the ITI teacher, ITI instructor will be the right kind of person to impart the training. Then performance aid, as I said, imparting training for the computing activity, we have to impart through the computers. Then we have to review the feedback simultaneously. Then we have to think with reference to setting out training program objectives. Here we find the basic program objective is different from the objective of the particular course or the unit or the topic. So the aim means the program aims at clarifying various aspects of designing and implementing training program and the role of trainer in it. Aim is a larger context. Then we have to come to the training objective. Training objectives with reference to the particular set of participants who are undertaking the training activity. Then subsequently, we have to talk about the performance objective, which means that at the end of the program, what performance criteria will be adjusted. It means the trainer will be able to design and deliver training program to identified groups of participants with reference to the performance parameters designed well in advance. Question is that why to set objectives of each program or the course or the topic or the unit? Because it sets direction to the training program. The planning strategy for bringing change in the system will be set well in advance. Then there should be emphasis on the context, because when I say training is a larger perspective. But when you talk about the specific context where the training is imparted, we have to focus upon the context where the training is to be undertaken. Then the basis of evaluation, as I narrated with example, if you are evaluating the performance of the learning activity, talk about the parameters. If you talk about the quality of the food, if you talk about the ambience of the room, then that will not adjust that learning activity. That will be adjusting the quality of the restaurant or the hotel where the training activity is being undertaken. Tool for meeting needs of the participants. The objectives are well defined activities to be set in advance, and that will be helping the participants to ask again and again that these were the objectives which were not fulfilled. Then defining limits of the program, meaning thereby that the program is designed with reference to a particular set of requirement, and for that purpose we can understand that it is not giving the solution of all the problems of the organization of the learners. So with reference to a particular program, some limitations will have been explained well in advance. It has already been there. The program objectives talks about the broad content, broad intent, action, aggregate outcomes. Course objective talks about general objectives, and the topic or unit objective is talking about the specific to the topic, and the learning objective is the overall expectations from the training activity which is to be brought in the learning module. The guidelines for setting the program objectives means the learner's perspective must be there. Instead of saying that we, the trainer, are interested in providing knowledge to the learners, no, it should be helping that learner from the learner perspective. Like the basic program, the basic objective of a particular training is to equip the learners to use the computers. Say, for example, if there is a training for using the Zoom, so we have to put the learner's perspective, like the objective of this program is to equip the learner to use the Zoom. Instead of saying we are to provide knowledge about Zoom, no, your perspective does not suffice, because this is the final product of the learning. So we have to talk with reference to that context. We should be specific and explicit objective in clear and simple language. Don't use jugglery. Language should be simple and to the point. It should be realistic, practical and achievable. ऐसा नहीं बोलना है कि हम लोग पिछले 75 years से बोलते हैं देश में गरीबी हट जाएगी, गरीबी नहीं हटी है. So it will be abstract narrative. In training activity, we have to be very much realistic, practical and achievable so that people can evaluate that this has been done. No big promises which can't be in your control. You have been training on behalf of the organization. You cannot commit on behalf of the organization that after 3 years you will be trained, you will be elevated, you will be promoted because of this training. No, you do not make any promises on behalf of the organization because that is not in your control. Measurable objectives through tools. Yes, the objectives must be measured through tools, means through the instruments or through the mechanism of evaluation. The flexibility to reset the objectives. See, there are many issues which come across. Say, for example, because of the technological glitches, as we found on our first lecture, the objectives have to be reset because of the say climatic changes. Say, for example, on the particular day, the earthquake took place and it becomes difficult for us to continue with the same program. So we have to reset our objectives. With reference to the training program, we have to talk about some 10, 12, some do's and don'ts are there which we have to follow. Identify the program content. On the basis of set objectives, laid down as per need, we have to set the contents. The contents can be of 3 types. Must be means compulsorily that is to be imparted to the learner. Should be ideally that gives the value addition, and could be means if it is not imparted then we can skip. Many things are there which are simply understood. So here in this class, if this is the class for the training activity, then not necessarily we should talk about the proficiency of the language of the trainer or the learner. No, we should, it could be, but we can simply skip about the language proficiency. The focus is on the contents. So the contents must be incorporated in the training activity, and should be means if we can cite the examples in the periphery, that examples will be again of immense use. Breakup of the contents. Breakup of the contents in the subgroups, meaning thereby that the contents cannot be taught in totality. To make it effective, we have to make the topic under subtopics. So, for example, if there is focus of the training on the organizational communication, so we have to give the presentation with reference to the basic meaning of organizational communication, the process of organizational communication, factors influencing organization communication, and strategies for effective communication for the organization. So under the subheads, we can simply categorically split the activity of the contents in subgroups. Categorize contents into information, knowledge, competencies, skills, attitudes, and values. See, under the definition we found that basically we are imparting information, knowledge, is competencies, skills, attitudes, and values in the mind of the learners. So we have to design the contents in such a manner that partly knowledge, partly skill, partly competencies are inbuilt in the contents. If you cite the example of some Indian literature, Indian wisdom, Ramcharitmanas, if you quote, meaning thereby the Ramcharitmanas is not part of the content, but by citing the example of Ramcharitmanas, we can give the characteristics of elder brother, younger brother, sister-in-law, father, so that these are the things which will be helping us to develop not the knowledge, but the skills and the attitudes and the values which are needed in any society. Organize and sequence program contents and other activities. We have to give the sequencing of the activities, linkage with other previous and the next one, coherent and consistent movement forward. See, we have to keep the momentum so fast that these are linked to each other. So any previous thing which we have been talking must be linked to the forward movement of the activity. So let there be a balanced training activities for participation intensity. If we do not involve the coherence and the consistency, then participants will lose the degree of intensity. We have to move from simple to the complex. If we start with the simple activities, people will create inquisitiveness, interest, and then we can move simply to the complex problems of the organization. We should move from generics to the specifics. We have to maintain momentum of the program, balancing individual and the group activities, common terminology and the language, and opportunities for the recap at the end of the session. Fifth point is determining learning outcomes for each module, meaning thereby there can be program objectives. We have to talk about the particular module or the topic, say as a behavior action, act in the context of information, knowledge, and skills, attitudes, values. What changes are expected in the particular topic? Decide on the training methods and the technique, which we'll be definitely discussing later on. There are various methods. We have to allocate time. We have to decide on the support material, facilities, and the equipments. Say, for example, if the fire fighting system training is to be imparted, we have to give the demonstration of the firefighting system, because theoretically we cannot teach as how to use the firefighting gadgets and the equipments. So for that purpose, these equipments must be there to on the display or to go for hands-on experience by the learners. Determine assignments for members of the training team. Determining assignments for members of the training team. See, the trainer is not simple entity. There are a lot of people who are there to deal with. Say, so there must be responsibility, there must be work. There will be content writers for the material. There will be some boarding and lodging arrangement people. There will be some extracurricular activities for sightseeing. There will be some people who will be engaged in the reimbursement of the participants. So we have to ensure all these things to be in the assigned activities. Delegate responsibility for management and administration, as I narrated, for reception, for living, for boarding, extracurricular activities, reimbursement. In the training activity, there may be a provision for the sightseeing of the city, sightseeing of the plant. So what arrangement has been made for that purpose, that is to be established. Then establish mechanism for monitoring and evaluation of the training session program. Evaluation is a must for each training program at the end, and let there be a particular set of parameters for understanding it. Communicating on the program. Communication for what? To make awareness. So communication to the participants and with copy to the organization. The program objectives and the contents to be delivered. The physical and administrative arrangements for boarding, lodging. Basic information about the agency, that Mr. So-and-so will be the trainer, Mr. So-and-so will be the agency. Basic information, then instructions for home assignments, there are some works to be done at the home. Conveying expectations to the participants in the training groups profiling. These are the things which are to be communicated properly. Key considerations in designing a program. See, again, there may be a repeating sort of thing, but we have to recap it in this manner. Objective activities of nominating organizations. Yes, the sponsoring organizations have got their own objectives. So let that be made clear to the trainer as well as to the learner. Stimulants of the learning process. What will be the temptation, the degree of the learning? The profiling of the participants must be shared among the group. So let that be profiling. For designing a program, we have to understand what are the learning values, what are the expectations, what are the profile, what are the profiles of the participants, how the pace can be made, to what extent the flexibility can be used. Say, for instance, if we are using online system and the computer system has been on active mode, simultaneously the electricity goes away or some technical flow is there, some glitches are there, the voice has been there, but the remaining system of the picture in picture is not reflected, meaning thereby if the picture is not there, at least the voice can be transferred. So that must, this flexibility must be there. Effective monitoring of the program. Let there be a training team to be considered. Who are the trainers, management and administration transfer of the training, meaning thereby further how the training is to be imparted. When you talk about the structure of content, it starts with beginning, has rest in middle and end. The beginning starts where the trainer is, when a trainee is prepared for instructions, the instructions are to be delivered by the trainer. In the middle, where the instruction is carried out and the trainee learns during the process of learning. And it ends with reference to the consolidation as to what extent the objective could be achieved. And for that purpose, we have to go for intro. When you talk about the learning activity, we have to go for introduction. That intro stands for interest, need, title, range, and objective of the entire program. We have to consolidate the learning at the end. When you talk about the learning, it talks about SLAT, means summary. You have to link, you have to ask questions, you have to test understanding and extend learning. Here we can find that trainer will be asking frequent questions to the learners. Then we'll be testing the understanding as we have been getting the pause. As if there is any problem, we can discuss it during the course or at the end of the program. And if need be, we can further extend the learning activity. Here we find the learning takes place in the 5 formats. We have to see the cognitive learning, behavioral learning, attitudinal learning, affective learning, and the integrative learning. Technically, we should not go in the deep, but for understanding, we have to understand to what extent we could acquire the knowledge. To behavioral learning means to what extent we could get the hands-on experience to develop our skills. Attitudinal learning means to what extent we, the values and emotions could be affected by the training, because the values are not germinated by delivering the lectures. Satya bolna chahiye. How many people speak truth? So how the values are germinated in the minds of the people, that is more important. And the impact of learning, that is the effective, the impact of learning is there. And let there be integrative learning that talks about the positive reinforcement with developmental activity. As you said, we have to ensure that training methods are n numbers. So we have to ensure that the instruments to deliver involvement of the participants, meaning thereby that the methods means these are the instruments which will be delivering the training impetus. There will be high degree of involvement of the participants, will be assisting the creative learning environment, will say compared to lecture method, the games will be having high degree of involvement of the people. Will depend, it will be time consuming. Outbound training is costly affair, but gives the impact for especially for the team building. So the outbound training, if you impart, so that has got limitations also, positive, negative aspects also, that is also to be undertaken. Then enhancing interest of the participants, giving partnership in learning. That is very important. We have to see that the learners and the trainers are joining hands for partnership and promoting group interaction. Factors influencing choice of methods. See, what type of nature of the program is there? What are the objectives? What is the entry behavior of the learners? Composition of the group, size of the group, experience and expectations from the group, time allotted, competition, ease of the trainer. Then if suppose I am a person coming from academic fraternity, I'll be more comfortable with lecture method. Then the simulation. Simulation consists of the mathematical modeling. It will be a little bit difficult for me. But the concerned person who is expert in the stimulation or for the simulation, then the simulation model may not be in position to deliver the lectures. Then facilities and resources, how resources are available, style preference of the trainer. Yes, that is also important. And stage of the program, that is the role play at the later stage. When we start any training activity, let's start with the lecture method, some small games, then the role play can take place when the momentum is at the peak. These are the training methods we may discuss in the due course of time. Lecture method, case study method, role play method, management games, the laboratory training, group discussion, panel discussion, brainstorming, outbound training, and the field trip. The selection of the media for delivery. Media means it is the vehicle through which the training is imparted, which should be suitable to the concerned method and the trainer. What does it mean? If suppose some method like a lecture method is there, then definitely the media, either classroom setting or the Zoom meeting will be the appropriate. But if you found that the simulation is to take place or for which needs hands-on experience, then definitely the physical participation should be ensured. So it depends on the method as well as on the suitability of the trainer, as the skills of the trainer in using the same, timing to use, integration into learning event. See, simulation takes place at the later stage. Games takes place later stage. The role play takes place when they are a high degree of maturity and the people are favorably at the learning maturity, so that can be used later on. We have to also ensure the cost benefit analysis. As is the ad worth the cost of development? We have to understand कि हमको उनको ट्रेनिंग चंद्रयान वाली देनी है क्या, कंप्यूटर सिखा रहे हैं या चंद्रयान पे ट्रेवल करने, चंद्रयान पर मूवमेंट की बात कर रहे हैं हम लोग. तो देखना है कि उसकी कॉस्ट कितनी है और उसका डेवलपमेंटल फेज कितना है. फिजिक्स पढ़ाने का मतलब ये नहीं है कि हम लोग उनको चंद्रयान पर जाने की ट्रेनिंग दे रहे हैं. Simply with reference to the cost benefit analysis, we have to talk about the media. Can others use the ad? We have imparted the training. Can it be used by the learners subsequently? We have to ensure that only. Then select the media. Say, for example, softwares are there. It depends on the availability of the training material, the backup supplies. Availability is also to be ensured by the softwares. Facilities for updating. We have been using the software so as if once it is used and it is not updated, then it is of obsolescence. So that will be of no use. Then we have to talk with reference to skills of the softwares, facilities for new material development, time and money for software development, money for software purchase. Beware of the software seen by learners as out of date. ये problem होता है. Simply for using the computers, if you use the outdated computers, it's of no use. Say, for example, if there is electronic file movement system, people are not aware of the file movement system because there is poor connectivity of the internet. The softwares are not available or they are not updated. So it is of least importance. Okay, when you talk about the hardware, we have to understand availability, facilities, money for the purchase, maintenance and reliability of the essential spares, beware of the technological changes. So these are the vehicles, and subsequently we talk about the performance aid. See, performance aid means which helps to enhance the performance of the learner. What does it mean? It simply means there should be assistance by the external stimuli. We can cite the example of computers. If the computer training is to be imparted, then computer system will be the performance aid which is to be used. It reduces the requirement for knowledge retention. See, why the young generation is more friendly with the computers, because they have been using it, and we, the old generation people, are afraid of touching the computers. So that makes the difference. Any alternative to expensive and wasteful training. If it is wasteful training activity, wasteful to use the performance aid, it should be avoided, and let it be the best alternative to the formal training. When you talk about the validation and evaluation, validation means इसको कितना हम लोगों ने accept किया है, ग्राह्यता कितनी रही है, to what extent the learning could be imbibed in our personality. Internal validations talks about the training, as to what extent the training could be imparted. Have the specified objectives of the trainer been achieved in the training? That is internal validation. When you talk about the external validation, it talks about the performance, meaning thereby has the training solved problems for the improved performance as it was expected. So it is related to the performance at the level of the learners. The internal validation means with reference to the objectives whether the training has been delivered, and the evaluation we have to see are the cost and benefits justified, as the cost incurred on the training is less or more than the performance achieved after the training. This is to be ensured. When you talk about the internal validation, there are certain specific questions which are to be delivered, which are to be replied. We have to see as specified objectives have been achieved or not. What are the questions? The questions are, how was the assessment carried out? As I discussed, the parameters are there. On the basis of that parameters, we have to understand how the assessment could take place. We have to see what the objectives achieved. Did the learning event suit the learners? Was sufficient time allotted for the training activity? Was the training material, checklist, etc. satisfactory? Were the support facilities satisfactory? What are the areas of further improvement in the subsequent trainings? And external validation, when we talk about the performance related, we have to see, has the training solved the problem or improved the job performance? For that purpose, certain questions are there. Was training linked to performance? Yes or no? If yes, good. Is there evidence of improved performance? Can this improvement be attributed to training alone? If that is improvement in the performance because of technological advancement, the training wastage should be avoided. Did the learners experience any problems in the transfer of the learnings? We have to ensure that. And how can training provision be more effective for such type of events? And the final stage of the training activity is the evaluation of the training activity. What is that? How many people need training? How many people have been trained? What costs were incurred? Can these costs be justified with reference to the learning input? What was the impact or the benefits? Where there has been effective use of the resources? Are there other more important needs of the organization? Then we can set the parameters. With reference to this evaluation, we have to talk about the training budget as well. Training budget consists of the variable cost, fixed cost, direct cost, indirect cost. Fixed cost means, suppose the atmosphere being created in the room, the purchase of the computer system, that will be the fixed cost. But the variable cost means the food, the cleanliness, the trainer's cost. This will be the variable cost. Direct cost, indirect cost, Direct cost means which is directly related to this particular event, and indirect cost means the premise is already there, but it has been used by the particular training activity. So that way we find that these are the things which have to take care of. We can get the point for further discussion, but the training budget must consist of these variables in making a draft. The faculty or the trainer, equipment's cost, manuals, brochures, other training materials, instructional and outreach materials, lodging, travel and mileage expenses, postage, courier, venue rental, catering, internet and communication needs, pre-event conference, road shows, and research. So these are the major activities to be undertaken with reference to the training event. So with this note, I come to the conclusion that training program, making a plan for the training program is not a simple activity. It takes a lot of things. With this note, I express my sense of gratitude to all the participants for patient listening. There may be some obstacles or the bottlenecks of the lecture method, and that too on the distance learning mode. But nevertheless, if there is a two-way communication by raising questions, we will in better position to deliver the things at a high intensity. If there is any queries, we can further discuss at this level. So now it is open for the questions to be raised, or you can share the, or you can simply share the things in the chat box.
So no questions as of now, sir. Thank you so much.
So friends, thank you very much. We are coming to the end of the session today, and we are almost closing down. I to have the 5 minutes time slot we have got. Can I have the first information about the background of the learners, the participating students, so that we can simply develop a better rapport? Anybody can come forward, give the introduction. Apurva, coming from which place? Apurva is there. Biswadeep Banerjee.
Yes, sir. I'm here. I'm from Bangalore, sir.
Okay, great, very good. So subsequently, Mr. Chandru Advani, Deji, Deepu is there.
Daisy from Chennai, sir.
Oh, great, very good. Oh, Kartike.
Deepu from Delhi.
Who, Chandru?
No, it's Deepu from Delhi.
Okay, very good, great. Who else? Vinita, TS.
Sir, I'm from
Solana.
Delhi.
Okay, Sandeep, Sudhakar, Kanaya.
Sir, Sudhakar from Ballari, Karnataka.
Oh, great. Oh,
Sir, Anil
Yes.
from Navi Mumbai.
oh, right. Oh, I mean, nice that the Mumbai, Chennai, Bengaluru has got the higher propensity of the trainers, and there is high demand in these places. And I tell you, this is the career. Most of you must be enjoying it, but still you find that the career prospects in the training fraternity will be of immense use, and especially when our national leadership has asked us to become the Vishwa Guru. It is a challenge. How can the Vishwa Guru status be ensured? That is not possible through the education system, through the teachers. It is the trainers who will be playing a vital role, because the skill and competencies are the need of the hour which are to be there, and that is only possible through the trainers only. Is still some more people? Mayuri is there.
Yes, sir. I'm from Mumbai.
Oh, great. Oh, Vinita?
from
Padma
Delhi.
Priya? Oh,
Yes.
Vinita from Delhi. Very good.
Yes.
Ganesh Ram?
Yes. Yes, sir. Bhakma Priya, I'm from Chennai, sir.
Oh, very good. So major chunk is from the metros. Bangalore, Chennai, Mumbai, Delhi. Ganesh Ram?
Sir, where are you from?
I am from Jaipur. I'm superannuated professor of management, and recently I joined R.A. Podar Institute of Management, one of the oldest institutes of the country, as visiting professor. And I have been actively associated with ISTD, and I was diploma board chair in 2012-13. And last year I was regional vice president North. So that is the background. So
Is it Podar Institute?
yeah,
Oh.
Podar Institute of Management. And there are two. One is Podar Group of Institutions. Anand Podar is owning that. That is private setup. I have
Yes.
joined the University of Rajasthan subsidiary as the Institute of Management. Yes, R.A. Podar Institute of Management. R.A. Podar is also connected to the Mumbai. They have also got their own academic institutions in Mumbai.
Yeah. I thought so you were in Bombay only when you mentioned
No,
R.A.
no, no.
Podar. Yeah,
And I'm from Jaipur.
Jaipur. Yes, you
Right.
clarified. Thank you.
Yeah. So, okay, friends, with this note, we can wind up today, and we'll be meeting on next Sunday with a new topic, right? Thank you. All the best.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Namaskar.
Thank you, sir.
Namaste, sir. Namaste.